Okay, people. Anyway, I don't even know what day it is. Honest God. I know it's July. I don't know. I think it's like July 18th or 19th or something like that. Anyway, I just want to talk about these lawsuits against Fraser Health Authority and CIBC Bank. Because now that ShaMay is dead, like I said, it's just one less witness for these people, right? You know, it benefits them to have ShaMay dead, right? Because, you know, she was a major witness as to what happened to Uncle John. And anyway, as I'm dealing with the bank, you know, trying to do whatever people do when people die, closing accounts and all that crap, right? You know, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'm being told that I might end up having to pay ShaMay's credit card yet. Right? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I told you what your bank did to me and my family and Uncle John. I told this guy, I said, maybe if your bank would have done the right thing by Uncle John, ShaMay would be alive today. Flat up fucking told him straight up to his face when I was sitting there. Right? And, because it's true, people. If Uncle John would have came home like he was supposed to, whether he inherited money or not, which we already kind of fucking know he did, because that's the only reason they took him, right? It's the only reason the bank did what a bank wanted to fucking do, because they just wanted to bank that fucking money, right? They didn't care who they hurt, people. But anyway, if Uncle John would have came home, we wouldn't have got so fucking depressed to the point where all of us just wanted to fucking go off and die somewhere in a hole, right? That ShaMay would have finished school. She would have accessed her trust fund. Would have been able to access that. Would have finished fucking school. And she'd be a nurse today. But instead, no. The bank was being greedy. Right? Sister was being greedy. The union was being fucking greedy. Healthcare union, right? Healthcare, fucking QP and all that shit. And they were being greedy. And Uncle John was blind, couldn't fucking walk, right? Doping him up so to make sure that he really couldn't fucking walk. Didn't give him proper fucking physiotherapy to make sure that he really couldn't fucking walk. Stole all his money, right? Destroyed his brain, right? Made it so that he fucking died early, right? 3 years, that's all he lasted, people, right? And, my interest every month on that fucking visa, that when John came to me, like I said, he was bankrupt. And we were in a house, and I had to go into the debt. Because when you live in a house, you end up buying things because you live in a freaking house, people. Doesn't matter if it's bloody water hoses, whatever the hell it is. Right? And, you know, he couldn't get a credit card in his name, so I signed him on to my card. And then over a period of fucking 10 years or whatever it was, it built up his credit, right? To the point eventually he could get his own. But I got stuck with the big ones, right? And I told that guy today on the fucking phone. I said, your bank has been trying to bankrupt me ever since Uncle John was medically fucking kidnapped for his money through the facilitation of your bank, right? Because if the bank would have done the right thing from the very get-go, they couldn't have done what those people did, right? Uncle John would have had a say, and we would have been able to have time to get that lawyer involved. And they didn't want that. That's why they rushed him out of there like their dirty secret, right? And ShaMay would be alive today, working full-time, right? Instead of in a freaking urn, right? While the bank wants to say I have to pay her bill as I give them $300 a month in fucking interest just for the one credit card that still sits at $19,000 4 years later after Uncle John went missing, right? While his family is running around spending his fucking money after they destroyed his life. Like, seriously. The guy tells me to have a good day. Yeah, whatever. So, anyway, I'll be back. So, yeah, it's like a 12-hour date outside in the sun, people. Right? Because, you know, if I don't keep up with it, you know what happens, right? Right? A lot of people are pissed off, eh? You know? Because, I'm not going to stay quiet about what happened to ShaMay, people. Nope, that ain't happening. And I'm not even going to stay quiet about what happened to Uncle John. Now, the thing is, you know, the people that do this stuff hurt others, right? You know, they do it because, you know, they want to drive you mad, eh? You know, drive you crazy, right? And, you know, they attack at different angles at different times. You know, like I said, CIBC bank files on the day ShaMay was murdered that they want something. I don't know what the hell they want, but they want something. I'm going to go to the courthouse next week and see if I can go in front of a judge to get an extension of time on this in light of my daughter being murdered, right? Because it will never be fucking settled until it's fucking dealt with, right? And can't say it enough. Only benefits the bank, and it only benefits Fraser Health Authority if ShaMay was dead. Because there's one less witness, right? Because they're never going to want to admit what they did to Uncle John. If Uncle John would have came home, our life would have been different, right? But instead, for some reason, these people that do this shit hook up dead bodies to machines and all this other crap, leave them there to rot so they can show it off to whoever walks through the fucking door, right? As the bank is looking for its money, right? Well, sorry, ShaMay wasn't an Uncle John. There wasn't $100, $200, $300, $400,000 to steal from her, right? She can't even access her little trust fund because of them, right? But they're so fucking greedy for money, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try and go after that, right? That'll be fine, though, because then they'll have to go to court and fucking deal with it. Sooner or later, they're gonna have to fucking go to court and fucking deal with it. And explain themselves, right? Yep. By that time, what you call it? John's sister, Eleanor, will be dead. Going to hell.
What day is it now?
I really don't know.
Okay, you tell a story.
The story is Nana's getting tired.
No. What you did today?
Show them.
Dad did a lot of stuff today. She did the grass. She did the greenhouse. She did the...
Pay attention to your video.
I know. I'm just showing them the water trees too. Here's the water trees. And now just in the greenhouse too.
Andre, stop whipping the camera around. Pay attention to it.
I was.
Look at the screen.
I was looking at the screen now.
You're not even looking at it right now.
Okay. Okay. Here's the compost. Look. Here's food. Ooh. Look at this. Look at this food. And there's a tomato plant. Hey, tomato plant. There's some more. And here's some more water trees. There's the food there. Bye, people.
Okay, people, I don't know what day it is, and I don't really give a shit right now. Anyway, I can't use Marcane's camera because, well, at least not right now, because I don't even know how to use it. It's a camera with a video recorder on the inside, so even if I was to put it on myself, I wouldn't know if it's focusing or what it's doing because you can't see a screen. Here I can see a screen, but I look into the lens. Here, you just look in the lens and you just hope for the best. He showed me how to turn it on, but I forgot. So I'm going to have to write everything down before I can use this thing. And even then, I don't know how I'm going to be able to use it. It will be great for science projects and doing stuff with Andre in terms of, like, we've got little leeches in our pond, and I brought some in a container here. Like, there's little leeches in there, right? I don't know. Let's see if we can see one. There, do you see it? Do you see it? So we can do some close-ups on that. But outside of that, so anyway, people, I don't want to go mad with what happened, like mad as in like completely crazy, right? I'm not angry. I'm already angry, people, but I'm talking about, like, you know, in a lunatic sense, right? About what happened to ShaMay. Because I'm going on that dream, people. You know, it was a warning. That dream was a warning. I mean, obviously, the culprit is a problem in terms of, you know, we're sitting ducks. If he murdered once, he can murder again. It's very simple. It's black and white. But it's more than that, because this part here with her head up and everything else behind the curtain was at the hospital, people. So it's a warning. Something to do with the hospital. Because I think about this dream, you know, more and more. As more time goes by, I think more and more about this dream, and I think about the state in which ShaMay was put in. And for what purpose? I don't know, people, because they didn't do the family and the friends any favor. They did nobody any favor. If for the people that were going to the hospital in terms of friends and, you know, extended family members and that type of thing, her brothers and whatever, right? And sister, a different sister from a different mom, right? From her dad's side, right? You know, they didn't deserve to be put through what the family was put through. Only they weren't put through it to the extent that we were. Right? And like, there's just no rhyme or reason. And if you ask them, right, if they fully understand what was going on with ShaMay, they'll tell you, all of them, that it was inappropriate. It was unnecessary. It was cruel. It was done with, you know, with intent for more than likely malicious purposes, people. Okay, you have to remember, there are still active lawsuits filed against Fraser Health Authority and CIBC Bank. Even though I haven't followed up on the paperwork, that paperwork is still registered with the court. Okay, it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away until it's dealt with one way or another through the court. Right? I mean, and obviously we know Fraser Health was bullying me when I took it to court for Uncle John, and then they sloughed it off onto the cops, right? And CIBC Bank is just playing innocent, right? And they are capitalizing off of ShaMay's death because it's one less witness for them. And, you know, they're a big corporation that is equal to, if not stronger, to the federal government. Because I was on the phone with the federal government at one point, kind of, you know, expressing what was going on with the bank briefly, and they said, yeah, you know, the bank has more power than we do. Like, what the hell is that? How can a bank have more power than the federal government? So, anyway, in terms of whatever banks do, right? So, what I'm trying to say is, people, is I have nothing to lose and everything to gain to follow up on what's behind that curtain. Sheet, whatever you want to call it. What happened to ShaMay after she died, people? Right? Because if she would have just died, there would be nothing to show me to go in that direction to look to see what happened after she was behind the sheet. Okay? I don't know why I had a dream like that. I don't know why I had a premonition. I don't know if it's mind control, you know, voice to skull in your sleep, where the government's playing fucking science experiments with Frankenstein fucking games and all this other shit. Because they're 25 years in advance in terms of the general public, in terms of technology. and, you know, MK Ultra and all these different mind control techniques that they have. You know, I don't want to get into that great drawn, long out, you know, facts. Because it's facts, people. The government at some point has been doing this stuff to the general population for years and years and years and years and years. You know, I have videos of energy weapons going through my yard. I don't consider them to be ghosts. They're not ghosts. They're energy weapons. You know, the energy bullet, the freaking thing that flied through my front, the Project Blue Beam with that little thing jumping, not jumping, but yeah, jumping and then going through the fence, not over the fence, but through the fence, and then scooting off like that in a matter of seconds under a hue of blue. Okay, so that's the first thing. You know, I mean, oh my God. That's the first thing, right? Like, I have video proof of these things, people. But you can't live your life being afraid of that stuff, because otherwise you'd be a nervous wreck and your life would be just terrible, right? So, you know, I take that shit with a grain of salt, because I'm stuck in this house, people, right? I'm stuck when I moved in with Uncle John and Auntie Joan and the kids, and I took on the yard, and, you know, I took a bad situation and I turned it into something really nice. The front yard is starting to look really, really good. And I was telling Tisha yesterday or the day before, now that the yard is almost done, half my family is gone. Like, half my family's dead or gone, right? Like, Uncle John's dead. ShaMay's dead, right? I guess you could say Auntie Joan is dead, right? You know, my oldest son isn't with me. You know, Sierra's a walking zombie, right? You know what I mean? Like, what was the point of doing 9 years of yard work if your family's just being picked off one by one? One by one, people. Okay? And, like, you know, I mean, I've had other dreams in the past that have been, I don't know how to say it, premonition, whatever, where, you know, it prepares me for things to come, right? Like, you know, Tisha, I had a dream of Tisha when I was pregnant with Tisha, 5 months pregnant, that, you know, she was going to be born very traumatically, be blue, and, you know, the nurse was screaming, oh, she's a girl, and I'm screaming, get her oxygen, because she's blue, as this nurse is holding this baby up. And sure enough, it came out like that when I gave birth to Tisha, exactly to the T, because they had given me a Chinese nurse who was new, in terms of a new nurse on the block. They gave her to me. I wanted to leave Surrey Memorial Hospital, go to the Royal Columbian Hospital, have Tisha there, because this nurse was arguing with me the whole time that I got to the hospital. And, you know, they insisted that I stay there, and blah, 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 blah. And this nurse, with her bad attitude, gave me too much oxytocin or whatever it was to get the contractions going. And by the time I gave birth to Tisha, I was flying off the table, literally, people, because that woman had given me too much oxytocin. And I was half on, half off the table. And Tisha almost flew out of my vagina as this nurse is trying to hold. They let the nurse do this. As the nurse is trying to hold the baby into my vagina as I'm heaving off the fucking table. And then finally she grabs the baby and she has the baby up like this. And she's saying, it's a girl, it's a girl. I'm screaming as my body is hanging half off the table. Get her some oxygen, because she was born blue. That's exactly how my dream was when I was 5 months pregnant with her. So if I wouldn't have had that dream when I was pregnant with her, I doubt I would have responded as quickly as I did in terms of telling that dumbass, stupid fucking nurse to give the baby some oxygen, because she was more proud about holding the baby up. Oh, look, it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. After she practically killed me, because she was showing off to her coworkers, and she was a Chinese woman with a very bad attitude. That's the Surrey Memorial Hospital for you, people. I should have sued that hospital, but when I got out of there, I just was glad to get the hell out of there and not look fucking back. Little did I know that that hospital was going to start attacking the rest of my family 10, 15 years later with a vengeance. So, back to ShaMay's dream. right? This isn't about the culprit. We already know what the culprit did. And isn't that interesting? People can go around killing fucking people in British Columbia, Canada with fentanyl, and nobody bats an eye about it. Nobody cares. Everybody says it's business as usual. They did it to themselves. But yet go to the Substance Act, Dangerous Substance Act, and it's right there under Section 1. Fentanyl is considered a dangerous freaking substance and is indictable indictment, or whatever you want to call it, up to 7 fucking years if you're caught with it. But we got fentanyl in every freaking community with drug houses all over the place. And nobody's going to jail for it. Nobody. And I'll tell you why that is, people. Because, in part, the political system. We can't blame the government for it. Government doesn't take no responsibility for nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Have you noticed that through my videos? Fraser Health Authority is connected to the fucking government. That's government. That's a government agency. Doesn't take no responsibility for Uncle John and what they did to Uncle John and his immediate family. Because some senior nurse got to run around acting like she was a fucking queen. Because she happened to be a senior nurse for an immunization program that only benefits those fucking employees and nobody else. In terms of government employees. Right? I'm so tired of being mad because of the union sector. Because this is union, people. This is union. Right? The union is paid to protect the public. But we got fentanyl in every freaking community across British Columbia, Canada, with people being murdered off without the police wanting to do proper investigations to find out who's being murdered and who's actually overdosing in terms of they did it to themselves. They shouldn't have been doing cocaine. They shouldn't have been doing a freaking Molly. They shouldn't have been doing fucking whatever it is that people do and then kill themselves with because it was laced with fentanyl. Right? And because so many addicts are being subjected to this shit, it automatically culls the population. Right? Because government doesn't want to spend out millions and millions and millions of dollars to a bunch of welfare recipients that are addicted to drugs with bad attitudes. So the best way to get rid of them is to put something in the fucking drug that's going to kill them. But the thing is, people, they can't harvest their organs. Those people that are addicts, they cannot harvest their organs. So there's a loss there, right? Right? The only benefit that the government gains, the government union sector, not even going to say the government, it's the government fucking union sector, because it's the union sector that's thinking about its life insurance policy, its superannuation, pension plans, dental plans, healthcare plans, all these other things that I have talked about in the past with my videos. Right? Because they're stuck on some entitlement mentality simply because they're employed by the government. Those aren't my words, people. Those are Uncle John's words. Because he used to work for the government. And he used to tell me what it was like with those people that worked for the government on average with their entitlement mentality. And their crookedness. So yeah, fentanyl, right? Dangerous Substance Act. Automatic 7 years once you get caught with the shit. Our jails would be packed full if the cops actually did their fucking jobs. But they're not doing their jobs. They're turning a blind eye to it, saying, oh, harm reduction. Oh, well, you take a chance, you're on your own. Right? We just warned you. Right? But at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're sifting through these bodies as they're coming in. Just like they sifted Uncle John out as he was coming into the Surrey Memorial Hospital through their emergency ward, laying in the hall with 100 other people in the freaking hall to see who has assets and who doesn't. And it turned out Uncle John did with a greedy fucking sister that hadn't been in his life for 50 fucking years, but because she was the senior nurse for the province, she got her way. And destroyed his life, destroyed his mind, used techniques to destroy his mind in terms of memory loss, quite possibly, and I've said it in the past before, probably gave him shock therapy to speed up that process because he was so depressed once they took him across the ferry and hooked him up to the, Victoria General Hospital. Nobody's there to protect Uncle John because those people sure in the hell weren't protecting him. They didn't even listen to him, people. How dare they accuse me of stealing his fucking ID when his ID is still sitting here at my house? And Fraser Health Authority wants to send that to the cops because they don't want to take responsibility for their shady behavior anymore than they're going to want to take responsibility for what they did to ShaMay. Right? Because they did something, people, to ShaMay. So as these bodies are coming in, right? Obviously they can't murder people out, down and outright. So if you got a house full of freaking addicts, just give you an example here, and, you know, somebody ODs, somebody else runs with a Narcan kit, gets their heart going with the Narcan within the first few minutes of that overdose. Ambulance comes. Well, they don't have a choice. They have to follow through with saving that person. Because if they didn't, that whole fucking environment with all those people, they'd never hear the end of it. Unlike ShaMay. Show up at the house, find a dead body, but use Frankenstein fucking medicine to start a heart because they know that her body is clean. Right? They know she doesn't have all these things that all these other people that are dying from fentanyl in terms of an addict have. And they're desperate for fucking organs. Right? And they're shady anyway, so they're going to get those organs one way or another. Right? Especially if you got some immigrant coming into the country and wants to pay $175,000 for something out of ShaMay's body. Or all these baby boomers that are coming in with all this money that they got rolling out of every orifice of their body. But they're dying, so they need organs, right? And since that hospital is nothing but a theater with the resources of a freaking, what do you call that, medical ward, like I swear, like half of these people that work there aren't even fucking professional doctors and nurses and assistants. They come from some freaking acting school. Like ShaMay's doctor, for example, brain doctor, when he called us in on the 16th, like this very disturbing, talk about the Grim Reaper, right? Calls us in on the 16th saying, oh, well, you know, we got to pull the plug because it's going to get ugly if we don't because your daughter has been dead for a while now. You know, here's the picture. You can see there's nothing in her brain. It's all gray. When in fact they knew she was dead before she freaking showed up. But they didn't tell me that part because they were too busy hooking up her body for some other ulterior motive, people. They had an ulterior motive. They should have just let her die in the basement and pronounced her dead that day. Right? But then everything would have had to been done through protocol in terms of, well, Miss Charney, do you want to donate her organs? And if you do, well, there is no means to capitalize off of those organs outside of sending it to the organ donation organization, and they'll take what they can, and we'll lose out $500,000 because there's kickbacks to a dead body that we can jumpstart and then sneak it off to the hospital, use their facilities without having to pay for them because we're in the hospital, and take what we want and lie to you as we do it. While the rest of the people that are ODing, just blame it on them too. You notice everybody in fucking BC gets blamed for this shit? But yet, fentanyl is a dangerous substance under the Substance Act? And warrants going to jail? But nobody goes to jail, ever? And if they do, it's far and few in between? Why, people? Because they're doing like what they did with Uncle John. They're sifting through it. They're sifting through their bodies. Right? Just like they're sifting through those old people. And they're taking the old people's monies that they think that they can rob. Right? Because they're old and there's no one there to help them, to protect them. And even then, they're doing what they do with the families to get rid of the families so they can take over their fucking assets. what's so disturbing about this too, people, is the fact that whatever happened to ShaMay behind the sheet, whatever happened to ShaMay was going towards Tisha. And it was going to happen to Tisha. That's when I woke up crying. A year later, there's ShaMay in the hospital, behind the sheet, dead. Just like in my dream, people. So as a mother, I have a right to find out what happened. ShaMay was on display. She could have been a trophy in terms of the way they displayed her, a medical trophy. Because they were quick to get her heart started. Tried for 20 fucking minutes when they knew she was dead. And they used a drug to artificially jumpstart it. I don't want to get into this too long because obviously this stuff makes me sick just thinking about it. But just like I had that dream with Tisha being born blue, and I had to protect Tisha from that, well, I must follow through on the dream that I had with ShaMay. Because it was a warning, people. Right? This is not to say that the culprit isn't dangerous, because the culprit is. But it's more than that. It's more than that, people. Because I mentioned to my son, right? Some things. And about organ harvesting, right? I said, do you think, I asked him, I didn't say she was, I simply asked him, do you think that her organs were harvested within the first 12, 13 hours of being at the hospital? Oh, Mom, why are you thinking like that? You know, I'm getting worried about you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you know, there's this, this, and this, and I'm just simply asking you a question. And he goes, well, how could they have done anything in terms of if her body was, because then it went into, well, why did they leave her on machines for so long? You know, it was pretty apparent she was decomposing, and he was in denial. And I'm like, no, go look it up online. You will see that there's certain stages, and with by day 8, you know, ShaMay was spot on with the decomposition of her body. Right, even though they had her on a machine, because he said, well, there, you know, she was on a machine. Yes, they had her on a machine, but it doesn't stop the decomposition of a body. Anyway, I did some, you know, online stuff last night, and I'm looking up embalming and all this other stuff, people, because he brought up the fact that, well, how did they prevent her from smelling if she was rotting? Right? Because he was in denial. He was in denial that his sister was left on machines to rot. And he goes, well, that can't be because she wasn't smelling. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, don't forget, we're in a hospital setting with their disinfectants and all this other crap. And, like, how do we know they didn't embalm her? Because I'll tell you, people, when I went to go freaking see her, she looked like she had been embalmed. I seen my mother dead in a casket. I know what embalming looks like. I seen my grandmother dead in a casket. I know what embalming looks like. I seen my grandfather in a casket. I know what embalming looks like. I seen my uncle in a casket. I know what embalming looks like. And ShaMay looked like she had been embalmed. And I said it vocally in her room, with the nurses standing there. And of course, it got played off as if it was nothing. However, on the side of her right neck was this huge-ass Band-Aid with leftovers of blood underneath. They had it on there to try and hold whatever was in there from leaking out. And on her body where they were giving her needles. Anyway, the nurse said that she had, her blood had turned to water. Not water in the sense of water, but it was running like water. It wasn't congealing. It wasn't, you know, doing what it was supposed to be doing. Well, yeah, because they probably embalmed her, people, to prevent her from smelling as they kept her on those fucking machines. Can I prove it? No. But it doesn't mean I can't talk about it if I'm thinking about it, especially if I thought she looked like she had been embalmed. And when they embalm people, they go in through the right side of the neck, up in here into the major artery. Okay, just remember that. So, how did they prevent a dead body from smelling? They have embalming techniques now that they can make it so that the color looks great. The body's color looks great. They can be moved around and they don't smell. But they have embalming fluid inside of them. So you would never know. Okay? You would never know, people. Because whatever they're doing behind the sheet. They're doing behind closed doors. Okay? Right? They're doing stuff without you knowing about it. You're not allowed to take a picture of them. Why? Because then you would see in the picture that she looked embalmed. She's your daughter. They can put her on display for anybody to come through, including the culprit, because the body said, when the body was awake for a brief second, that the body wants to see the culprit. One of those social workers actually sat there and argued with Tisha and her friend, saying that ShaMay said that she wanted so-and-so to come in and see her. Now, how is that fucking even possible when she came in dead and never woke up? So, what gives that right to that social worker to even say such a thing? Because they had an ulterior motive. They wanted to upset the family, people. Just like they wanted to upset the family with Uncle John. First it was Uncle John, then it was ShaMay. Because they had ulterior motives that was centered around money. If Uncle John would have had no money, Uncle John would still be at home right now. Maybe we'd not be living in this house. We would have had to accommodate his needs. Him and I were already talking about moving, maybe. Or having the landlord build in a freaking walk-in shower so that he could just walk in. We were thinking of asking to put a walk-in shower, right? So that, you know, he could just walk in versus trying to go over the bathtub with his legs. Or we were thinking of moving. One or the other. Point is, he never came home. And he died an early death from the stress that those people put him under. Because if he was home, he'd probably still be alive. People, I do believe that. Right? And then they turn around and they did it again with ShaMay. Because they can't harvest all these addicts' bodies as they're coming in. They cannot take anything from a person that injects drugs because it's too dangerous. Because a lot of these people have parasites in their bloods. They have blood infections that are coming in from the inside and going on to the outside, eating the skin. I've seen it, people. Okay? I've seen it on several people. So the healthcare system can't use these bodies. The only thing that they can do is say good riddance, one less welfare recipient to have to take care of through the healthcare system and the social services system. So that's another reason why nobody goes to jail for fentanyl, because it's culling the population, even though it's a dangerous substance. Right? And then when the clean bodies come in like ShaMay, there's so many people out there that need organs that cannot wait on the wait list in terms of the legitimate way of getting organs being donated. Because if ShaMay would have been pronounced dead, I would have gladly donated her organs that same day. It would not have been an issue for me. Except for maybe for the ones that took her body and wanted to get those kickbacks in the terms of $175,000 for this, $50,000 for that, $500,000 for that. take what you need within the first 10 hours of the body coming in, embalm the body, and then just play fucking head games with the family for 8 fucking days. So that the family goes crazy, so you're thinking about that versus thinking about what they were doing behind that sheet, people. What did they do to my daughter's body? What did they do? And there's enough witnesses to verify what I'm saying in terms of how she looked and how she deteriorated and how those people were acting when they had her. So anyway, I need to know how they prevented my daughter's body from smelling, being that she was a corpse on machines. Right? If they had some magic potion, well, we need to find out what that magic potion was. If it was simply disinfectants and they were just wiping her down, so be it. But if they actually embalmed her, people, and didn't tell us about it, just so that they could put her on display for 8 days for whatever morbid reason they had, with this, I'll end it on this note, with Dr. Goth on the 5th day saying, oh, and here, you know why I call him Dr. Goth? Because I have never in all my life seen a doctor dressed all in black from top to bottom with black shiny shoes. As shiny as it could possibly be. He stood out so much that when he started walking out of the room, I pointed it out to him how good he looked in black. And how nice his shoes were shiny. But of course, after the fact, thinking about it, and he looked goofy. His hair was tousled, but yet he was like perfect when it came to his suit and his black shiny shoes. As he's talking about my daughter being clinically brain dead, and that was it. The machines needed to be cut off because it was going to get ugly. That's what he said. Well, if it was going to get ugly, why didn't he shut it off on the 16th instead of let us drag it out to the 19th? Because for the first 5 fucking days, they were telling us that there was some chance in there that she was sick. But if they looked after her long enough, she just might get through it. See what I'm saying? When in fact, they knew all along she had died. Why did her blood liquefy to the point where it was the consistency of water? Maybe it's because she didn't even have blood in her anymore, because the blood had to have been removed after they took out the organs. Well, the burden of proof is on you. You have to prove that they did that, Miss Chorney. I know, just like I have to prove that they medically kidnapped Uncle John, right? They don't have to prove that they didn't do it. All they have to say is I stole Uncle John's ID and they were saving him from that. Even though he raised 5 children over a period of 23 years and was in the life of all those children for over 34 years. And wanted to come home to those children. But those people in that environment, at that hospital, and anything connected to that hospital, didn't want to hear it because they had a backroom deal going on with somebody else to steal Uncle John's money and then put him in a fucking old folks home, make him pay for it as he was lost and lonely all by himself until finally he died from stress. As they now sift through the bodies coming in with this fentanyl crisis, right? And obviously capitalizing somewhere on some bodies, some of them, that are clean, don't have history of drug abuse, right? Have good minds, are healthy, are young. Because it's obvious that we live in the Congo and anything freaking goes out here, people, and nobody goes to jail. Oh yeah, and one other thing. The thing about white-collar criminal activity, people, is it's like any kind of gang, right? It's organized crime. And because you're dealing with politics in terms of millions and billions of dollars, province-wide, nationwide, it's like a pedophile ring. You know, you have a cell over here, a cell over there, and a cell over there, and a cell over there, and they all network in between themselves. Well, this is the same shit, only a different pile, right? Okay? Okay? It's big money. There's 15, 20 years of baby boomers coming in through the system. If they can get 10%, steal 10% of the assets of that population group, then they're mission accomplished. Do drug dealers sell drugs to everybody in all communities across Canada? Is everybody affected in terms of ingesting these drugs? Obviously not. Maybe 10% of the population, right? So you have 10% of the population being ruled and abused by drug dealer gangsters. The other 10% of the population is being medically kidnapped for their assets through a different type of gangster group, right? But it's all still criminal activity, organized crime, and white-collar criminal activity. And once you get into white-collar criminal activity, it goes into a different realm. It's not your petty street dealer, slanging some little baggies of this and little baggies of that. We're talking like bundles of money here and bundles of money here being laundered through the banking system, through those types of things, right? Credit unions and gold bullion, right? In large amounts as they shuffle the paperwork and falsify the records, people. Okay, so that's you have to keep that in mind, that you're not going to get the truth, because I gotta turn off the camera and I'm like, those people that are watching this video, they're probably thinking she's going cuckoo, like, and it's not about going cuckoo. It's about understanding about what happened, really understanding about what happened to my daughter. It's not simply that my daughter was dead. It was something that happened behind the sheet. Okay, because we already know she was murdered. That part we know. But we don't know what happened behind the sheet for 8 days and why the healthcare system, a health authority, wanted to keep her body hooked up to machines and torment the family and friends of ShaMay while they did it. So, the other thing I wanted to just touch base on too is like, okay, this organized crime situation, like, well, when her body went to the coroner, or whoever did the autopsy, I don't know, because I requested an autopsy. I signed a piece of paper in the hospital for an autopsy, right? I had to fight with the doctor to get that autopsy. And even then, they weren't going to give me the autopsy. Then I had to get loud on the fucking phone, people. So now I'm dubbed, oh, there she is again, just going off a rocket. Right? But how do we know that whoever did the autopsy, because it was done at the Royal Columbian, instead of the Surrey Memorial. So they moved her body, took her over there, did an autopsy on her. Well, how do we know that's not one of those cells? Because that's how it works. You can't steal somebody's organs, go put them in somebody else, hide the evidence all by yourself. Other people have to help you hide that evidence, right? So, what if those people at the Surrey Memorial or Royal Columbian Hospital are part of that network? And then, because her body was cremated, she never got a funeral, right? Because she had an open funeral at the Surrey Memorial Hospital. People were painting her toenails. People were caressing her body. People were singing to her. People were talking to her. People were praying to her the whole time she was dead. Well, that fucking hospital isn't telling anybody about that because they're making us think she's alive. So who wouldn't want to know the truth as to what state her body really was in as they were doing this to us? Because it's not just me, people. I'm just the mother expressing the story in terms of what happened to my daughter, and I'd like to fucking know. So we know she got cremated without a funeral because what would you have seen in a casket? An embalmed body. She would have looked the same as exactly as she was on those machines. An embalmed body. Because she had been in an embalmed body for a while. The minute I seen her, she looked embalmed to me. And it just got progressively worse. Because she started to swell. And they have embalming fluids now that can preserve a body to make it look like it's fucking alive. Right? In terms of it can be moved, the color is good, and they don't smell. I confirmed that last night by finding an article on it. But when it comes time to cremation, and this is why I came back, when it comes time to the actual burning of the body, you're thinking in your mind, well, if they did something as asinine as that, you know, I mean, they have to hide the evidence. Wouldn't those chemicals explode once they hit the fire? That's what I was thinking, right? You know? And then I'm watching a video, because I'm trying to understand this all, people, really, seriously. I'm trying to be, what is it called? Unbiased to the situation, right? And not just fall for the old okie dokie, right? Like, where does it say in their fucking mandate that I can't take pictures of my own body? I mean, my own daughter's body hooked up to their machines, outside of a nurse or a social worker saying you can't. Right? Why don't they want you taking pictures? Because it would have proved that she looked like an embalmed body. That's why they don't want you to take fucking pictures. Because if you took it to court, you could say, well, Your Honor, does not look embalmed to you. It looks embalmed to me. So when it comes time to create cremation, you know, instead of going into the fire with this fluid in their body and exploding because of their chemicals, they bleed them out. They bleed out bodies before they cremate them. I didn't know that. I didn't know that till last night when I seen a video on it, how the process is done. So whether there's blood in there or whether there's embalming fluid in there, it doesn't really matter because it's going to get bled out. So the evidence is hidden. If that's what they did. Because if they're going to go as far as doing all that, then obviously they're going to hide the evidence, right? Because they're not going to tell people, you know, give us your bodies and we'll make sure they find a home, their organs. You know, we're a legitimate organ harvesting company. All right, nobody is going to talk about that stuff. Nobody's going to advertise. Who's going to advertise that? Is that still recording? Yeah. Who's going to advertise organ harvesting? Nobody. Who can do it? Only certain people can do it. You have to have the proper facilities for it. Right? So anyway, I just, you know, I'm not going to sit here and suffer in silence, people. I'm not. But I'm also not just not going to think about it. My doctor said, oh, just don't think about it. You're upsetting yourself. Well, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't be upsetting themselves thinking about morbid stuff like this? Like, come on. Right? But if it happened to ShaMay, it could happen to Tisha. And the point of the dream, it was going after Tisha. Tisha was next. Right? There's only two things that want Tisha. The culprit that killed ShaMay, because Tisha, you know, is Tisha, right? Or the freaking system that did some very insidious, awful things to my daughter's body as they lied and manipulated family and friends, right? And now that ShaMay is gone, Tisha's next on the list in terms of possibilities for that white-collar criminal corruption, right? That runs into the millions and billions within the black market. Just like Uncle John, that 10% of the elderly population being medically kidnapped for their assets runs into millions and billions for that network of criminal, white-collar criminal activity. Right? Can't be afraid to talk about it, people. Right? Nothing is new under the sun. Technology just brings it to the surface because you can quickly, instead of having to go to the library and look up embalming and have 15 books beside you and figuring out which one makes sense. You can Google and you can go through a whole bunch of shit in a night and you can find some things that pretty much are spot on to keep you guessing and wondering and wanting to find answers. Right? I just want answers. I want the correct answers. That's what I want.